Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at the casual solo Jackdaw fit that I've been enjoying for the last couple months. It's a dual prop MASB rocket brawler that hits like a truck and can disengage pretty well. The fit is up on the screen and will be in the description below. For drugs, I use standard blue pill and sometimes Synth crash, though the crash isn't a big deal. I don't use any implants because I expect to eventually die in a fire in a glory brawl in Null. So this first fight is against a Nurgle outside an ESS. We play around on grid for a little bit before we dive into each other and the fight commences. So once we get into fighting distance, I kind of sit at the edge of scram range just in case I need to leave. I have the advantage of having a web, which means I have range control even over the Nurgle's shiny Afterburner. And we just hit each other as hard as we can, which is pretty hard for both of us. But the Nurgle takes some time to ramp up, whereas I hit my full damage out of the gate. And I just watch for the ADC to turn off my heat when I feel like the ADC was hit, so I don't waste heat on its invincibility stage, basically. What I could have done better was to activate my Ancillary shield booster earlier. It ends up not mattering, but I always hit that thing way too late. I'm just too used to armor tanks, I guess. The loot fairy said no. This next fight is against two Steeples and their Gnosis friend. I had already looked at their guns when they were trying to catch up to me outside an ESS. So I just dove on them with my MBD overheated, and it's pretty straightforward when they don't really even try to get away from me to track. The artillery couldn't track me at point blank range and my rockets tore them apart. So just have fun watching that. This second one really needed to pull distance when I was killing the first one, but it just sat there and waited for me to move over and finish it off too. It needed the distance to track me with the artillery. Once their friend went down and I got the stram on them and the orbit established, all they could really do is go make a sandwich and leave because they couldn't get away and they couldn't hit me. I reload and repair and then just go over and kill their Synesis friend who stayed for some reason. I really don't know why that Synesis didn't warp off, but it stayed to fight the good fight, I guess. But I guess it did have a better shot than the Steeples once I got on top of them. At least the Synesis can fight at 0. The Steeples needed range and they didn't try to keep it. Alright, so I warp down to this gate, a saber warps down with me, and on the other side is a Gnosis and a hyena pops up. I don't get the worst gate spawn. I'm like 18 kilometers from the Gnosis, and I do want to be away from it. So I just start burning towards something away from the Gnosis, so I just gotta keep moving as fast as I can away and kill the saber and warp. I even stay in speed mode as I'm shooting the saber, and I'm not sure that was the right call. Maybe I should have blapped them in sharpshooter mode, but speed mode is what I chose, and just watch how it goes down. The curse definitely isn't making things easier, by the way. I feel like the hyena either burnt its point out or needed to turn off heat on a meta point, which allowed me to get away when point dropped for just a second, because I was already aligned to the Antiplex, and since I was already aligned, I just like spammed S-click on it to warp to it, and Jackdaw has insta warp from 0 basically, because it aligns in under 2 seconds in speed mode. So once I land on the Ferrolux, I can just warp away somewhere else, and I warp really fast, so they can't like warp to me and catch me again. Nice bait. I think I'll take it. Now this obviously has to be sped up because I just kind of sit here shooting at this thing for quite a long time before the friend just comes and takes me out. I think that I had enough time to de-aggress and go for the gate, and my instinct was to try to burn away, and it was just really bad instinct because what had landed was a Balgorn, and I'm not going to get away from a Balgorn. I'm muted, I'm webbed, I'm just in bad shape. With as little damage as the Balgorn did to me, I really think the play was defense mode and Nos the Balgorn back to get Cap to help myself get back to the gate and then de-aggress, turning off the Nos and all that. I think I had the time. So I played with this fun little Malediction and Hakata duo when I was being camped into the system, and these two gave me a lot of fun when I was just kind of bouncing around the system trying to find stuff here. And I'll just let you watch for a little bit before I turn back in. It's really nice to have the Javelin rockets to push off the Malediction at point range. They don't apply super well without the web, but they hit out hard enough to push off at least a T2 fit cheat Malediction point range. The Malediction gets brave and pays for it. I'm a little too cautious against this Hakata in this fight, but I guess that's not too surprising considering how much damage I have already. Because of me being a bit too cautious, Hakata does indeed get away, but we have a round 2. People really like Hakatas, but I think they're a bit overrated. I'm not saying they're a bad ship. The blaster ones do a lot of damage. The rail ones can project and play around with that a bit. But I just think they're really easy to read and do something about in most cases, compared to like the Confessor and the Jackdaw. I think those two are a lot harder to react to. Because Hakatas are, you know what they're doing. You know what they're doing, and you can prepare for what they're doing. They have a lot going for them. They warp fast and all that, but I don't rate them as highly as at least the Jackdaw and the Confessor as far as the PvE destroyers go. So here's a solo Steeple I found out in the wild, and I go to engage the Steeple, and I think the positioning before the actual shooty shoot part is pretty interesting. You notice that at like the start I'll just like approach, but he's not totally into it at first. So I start manual piloting. I switch back to speed mode, and I do initiate the fight, and it goes pretty quickly. Just notice the difference between when I have him on approach and when I double click in front of him. You need to move to where he's going to be, not to where he is. I catch him when he turns right here. The next two little engagements just push through the idea of how much damage this Jackdaw does. It does like 400 DPS cold, right? So here's a Harpy, which is very tanky assault frigate that is going to hurt me quite badly if it gets to 0, because it also does like 400 DPS with blasters. But my 400 DPS projects to like 14, and I have an Afterburner when it does not, so it should never ever get on top of me like that by itself. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of new pilots make is they don't understand how important moving during the fight is. You should know what range you want to be at versus the ship you're fighting, and do your best to get to that range, whether it be pulling away from them, pushing towards them, or doing both to some degree. Here's some more obvious bait from our friendly panda friends. I burn off the gate and I expect the Bifrost to come after me, and it does not disappoint. But unfortunately for this Bifrost, it doesn't quite understand the full power of the rocket side of the Jackdaw. All I'd really say that I should do here is probably align sooner than I did, but it warps fast, and I get away. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.